Hello again, this is Sandy Morrissey. I am your Math 110 online instructor this summer. And the first video we went over D2L and just kind of a little overview of the addendum and what you need to be able to click on throughout the course. In this video, we're going to talk about MyLabsPlus or MyMathLab. They're kind of one and the same thing. MyLabsPlus automatically is linked to D2L as far as logging you in, not as far as your grades, but you don't need a separate instructor ID in order to get into this course. So if you follow the link from D2L that says MyLabsPlus, it should automatically put you into here and you do not have to log in again. If you are having to log in again, then contact tech support because something is wrong. Or let me know. So once you log into, once you are in MyLabsPlus, you're going to see something that looks kind of like this. When I was in D2L, it was nice because I could switch it to the student view. Unfortunately, I don't have that option with MyLabsPlus. So if you see these little symbols over here, to the right of my left-hand buttons, the little monitor with a slash there, it means that you're not going to see that on your computer. However, I have no way of hiding it from mine. So you're just going to see these buttons at the top, so hopefully it'll be a little bit easier to navigate because you're not going to get lost in all of this extra stuff. So right now we're on the course home, and you have a lovely little calendar, and it's just showing you all this stuff that's available, so don't be scared. Obviously, this is, throughout the entire semester, those will be all of your homework assignments. But if I go towards next week, then you can start to see the due dates. So they're all color-coded. This little yellowish, orangish square are your quizzes, and then the little green diamond is your tests, and then the blue circle is your homework. And so you can see what's due on the different days. And like I said in the previous video, all of your due dates are either Mondays or Thursdays, so those are the only dates that you'll see something due on here. So let's navigate through. Also on this page, right, you just have the upcoming assignments, and it just lists the next 3. Don't worry about this study plan. This is not for any extra credit or full credit or anything. But if you want to do extra work, go ahead. I would rather you just focus on the homework questions, and then you can click on similar questions because everything is in the study plan, right? Even things that we're not covering in the textbook. So, I guess before I leave this page, another thing I want to show you on here is the browser check. We talked about before, if it's not really working very well in Explorer, then definitely try something else. D2L is recommended to be used with Firefox. However, we found that MyMathLab or MyLabsPlus also works well on Safari or Chrome, basically anything other than Explorer. But occasionally people still do have issues. So run this little browser check, and it'll make sure that you can access all of the materials for the course, right? The book, the videos, the homework, everything. You don't want to miss out on any of that because of technical issues. So on the left-hand side, they're going to ask you for an access code. Now, an access code shows that you actually purchased MyLabsPlus. And it's this big, long alphanumeric number. If you have yet to purchase that, well, you're going to have to purchase it, but you can sign up for temporary access. So if you click on Course Home, which doesn't really make sense, but whatever, that's where it is. So if you click on temporary access, then a code is going to come up, and that you can input as your temporary access code, and that works for the first 21 days of the course, after which point you are going to still have to purchase your access code, okay? Because that's the content for the course. All right, so next on our little list of buttons, we have your homework button. And we want to continue. So that's all of your homework for the course. You have quizzes and tests. So those are your quizzes just for Module 1. Also, you could get to what I just did from switching back and forth here. And just be careful because you don't want to only do the homework. You want to make sure you're doing the quizzes and tests as well. So I highly recommend that you print off your course calendar and make sure you're keeping up with your assignments. Really quickly, when we are in here, you can see with the homework, actually nothing is listed under your attempts. You have infinitely many attempts at doing your homework questions, okay, as opposed to your quizzes. When you're in your homework, let me just randomly go into one of these things. When you're in your homework, it's going to bring up a different question for different people. You know, it might be equal to a different number, different exponents or whatever, but similar concepts. Let's say that you answer this incorrectly. Okay, this one, it's a multiple choice, so I really just have one attempt. So now it's telling me it's my final check. Usually it's going to be a short answer question, and then it'll give me 3 attempts at these numbers in this question, and then it'll say final check. But because it's multiple choice, I just get one final check. Sorry, that is not correct. It'll give you a little explanation. Done. And then click on similar exercise. You still have a chance, right? Oh, well, it wasn't a function. Well, not a function was incorrect, so therefore it is a function because y is not raised to an even power, but you'll learn that later. And then you can check it again, and then you get credit for it. You have infinitely many attempts at each and every one of these questions. All of your homework questions are infinitely many attempts, so use them, get 100 on your homework. If you're really stuck, you have a couple buttons over here. You can do the Help Me Solve This. Help Me Solve This is going to solve the current question that is up on the screen. So, like for example, I have this little weird picture here. Help Me Solve This has that exact same picture, and then it'll guide you through how to solve that question. Okay? And then, since they just answered that question for you, when you go back here, it's going to be a new problem. Okay? But let's say you don't want them to guide you through that specific problem, you just want them to do a similar example. Well, then you can go to View an Example. View an Example is not going to be identical to the one that's on the screen, but obviously, especially for this one, it's ridiculously close. So it'll teach you how to do that new question. And when we're done with that and I go back to my original question, it's still exactly the same. Okay? So big difference between those two, but both extremely helpful. There's also a link to the textbook and to the Ask My Instructor. You know, don't click on Ask My Instructor for each one of these questions. Yes, I am your instructor. Yes, you can come in and ask questions. It's really hard to answer questions via email. If you're having issues on how to plug something in, that's fine. But mostly, I really encourage you to come in and ask me questions if you have specific homework questions. For most of the questions, though, they are short answer. Let me get out of here. So when you're inputting your answers, you're going to need to actually understand how to plug things in. So let me just go to one of these guys. If I want to plug in, let's see, I have a function here, right? If I have 2x plus 1, then I'm just going to plug it in. If there's a fraction, and then I can just click on my little fraction key. Right. Minus, let's say I have absolute value. Obviously this answer is incredibly wrong. Let's say I want to do a root, then I can do the square root of 5. Let's say I want to do a cube root, then I grab this guy. And you can also arrow between these, so I can go to the left and to the right. And I want to get out of that root, so then I'm going to say plus 7. Okay? So use all of these buttons on the left-hand side. And then there's your exponent as well. Let's do 7 to the 4th. Also, there's a little more in case you need even more. So use these things on the left to help you plug in your functions. Okay. So this is a good example of, this one just says check answer. So I'm going to have 3 attempts at these numbers, and then after that it'll say similar exercise. I'll have 3 attempts at that, and I can just keep on going forever until I get a 100 on my homework. And then I also get my 2 bonus points on the test. Alright, so let me close that out. Next up is obviously your grade book. I haven't done much work at all. Let's see what my grade is right now. So I can see I got a 0 on the 1.8 homework and an 11.11 on the 1.2 homework. Okay, so what I do is I average together all of the module homework grades, and then that's your module 1 homework grade. Okay, my MyLab does not do it by module as far as your grade, the average for each module. So I do that on my own when I transfer all your grades over to D2L. All right, so multimedia library. I'm going to skip over assignments because that's a really important one. Multimedia library is if you want extra stuff. So let's say you're really struggling with exponents and logs. Well, let's take a look at everything they have with exponents and logs. You can see they have all these animations, test prep video, the textbook, and then interactive figures. There's a lot of stuff. PowerPoints, videos, and then section video lectures. There's a lot. So you are paying for all of this stuff. So use this stuff. Right? Of course, I could choose a specific section as well, or a specific type of media, but use these things. Purchase options, I don't know what that is. So assignments is where I usually want you to go. So under assignments, I've linked to everything that you have to do in each of the modules. So again, you're not going to see any of these little things, but you can see module 1. And if I click on module 1, then there should be a little overview of the module and different things that you're going to learn in here. And then each of the due dates. And this is just like the calendar, and this is just like your list of things that you had to do on D2L, only what's nice about here is these links actually work. Okay, so course addendum, obviously that's the same as before. The calendar, you know, the assessment center, those are just outside of my MyLab and D2L links. But if you want to take the pretest, that actually links you to the pretest on my MyLab. Let me look at a more typical week. So for section 1.2, you're going to watch a video. Okay, so this one just has one video. If you click on this, and then it'll open up the video, and that'll teach you section 1.2. Okay, and if these aren't working, again, go back and do the browser check. And also there's a link to the textbook, and then there's a link to do your homework. So you could get to your homework there. This is just showing you module 1 material, or you could go up to homework over here. But this is really nice under assignments because everything you need to know is right there and everything you need to do. If there's something that's in D2L, so that would be a discussion or a Dropbox assignment, which is obviously a lot less often than all of your MyLab stuff, then those links don't work. So the ones in D2L work for stuff in D2L, the ones in MyLab work for the stuff in MyLab. So like number 4 here, you have to complete a project, you know, and this will link you to that document for the project and submit it via Dropbox on D2L. Well, that's just a link to regular D2L. It's not going to put you directly in the Dropbox. Okay. Whereas if you're on D2L, then this same exact number 4 on your to-do list actually links to the Dropbox. Okay, so hopefully it's not too confusing having these two lists in different places, but most of the time you're going to want to reference this one that's on my MyLab because these links actually work for my MyLab. All right. So I think that's it. I'm going to close up my assignments. So make sure you're keeping track of your due dates. Make sure you're just keeping on top of all of your assignments. Let me know if you guys have any questions. You can also post to the discussion board and you guys can help each other navigate in case you get lost because you're looking at it from a different perspective than I am. So you guys should be able to really help each other sometimes more than I can help you. So let me know how you're doing. Good luck. First thing on your list is you need to introduce yourself. Let's look in here. You need to introduce yourself to one another. You need to take a pre-test on MyLabsPlus, which will take 45 minutes, and then you're going to come in or call me or email me and let me know how you did on that so we can make sure that you've been placed in the correct class. And of course, take a look at all of your introductory materials. I hope I can meet you all sometime over the summer. Good luck!